The African wilderness is breathtaking, yet unforgiving. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and the wild reminds you who is truly in control. In 2018, a 22-year-old woman learned this in the most horrifying way imaginable. What was meant to be a casual visit to a South African game reserve turned into a nightmare, a chilling moment where human curiosity met nature's raw and lethal power. She wasn't supposed to be there. The woman, whose identity was never publicly revealed, had accompanied a friend to a lion sanctuary on the 3,200-acre Dinokeng Big Five Game Reserve, just outside Pretoria. The visit was informal. She was tagging along while her friend interviewed the camp's manager for an assignment. The reserve was home to Kevin Richardson, the so-called Lion Whisperer, a world-renowned conservationist who had forged an incredible bond with some of the most powerful predators on Earth. For the woman, this was a rare chance to see lions up close, majestic, awe-inspiring creatures in their natural environment. But what she didn't know was that something was already in motion, something deadly. On that fateful day, Kevin Richardson had taken 3 of his lions out for their routine walk. It was part of their exercise and stimulation regimen, a controlled interaction between man and beast that Richardson had done countless times before. Everything seemed normal. The lions, powerful yet familiar, strolled through the reserve as Richardson and a colleague monitored them closely. Then, everything changed in an instant. A lioness, sleek and muscular, locked eyes on her target. An impala, a swift and delicate antelope, had entered the clearing. The lioness's instincts kicked in. Without hesitation, she exploded into a full-speed chase, her powerful muscles rippling as she pursued the terrified prey. But somewhere along that pursuit, the chase veered off course. The impala darted, zigzagging through the landscape. The lioness, fully consumed by the thrill of the hunt, followed, covering a staggering 2 to 2.5 kilometers in mere moments. And then, she encountered something unexpected. The young woman. She had been standing outside the fenced area of the camp, blissfully unaware of the approaching danger. She and her friend had been snapping photos, capturing the raw beauty of the African wilderness. She never saw it coming. The lioness did. There was no time to react. Before the woman could turn, before she could even scream, the lioness struck. With a force that could shatter bones, the massive predator pounced, knocking her to the ground. The world went silent for a split second, then erupted into shrieks of terror. Her friend stood frozen in horror, watching the attack unfold. The lioness, driven by primal instinct, did what apex predators do. Teeth sank into flesh, claws tore through skin. It was over in moments. Her lifeless body lay still, the golden-brown predator towering over her, breathing heavily, blood staining its powerful jaws. The African bush, once peaceful, was now eerily silent. Paramedics raced to the scene, their sirens piercing through the stillness of the reserve. Desperate efforts were made to save her, but the injuries were catastrophic. Nick Dahlman, a paramedic spokesman, would later describe the scene as horrific. The injuries were very severe, he said. It was a deadly attack. Her friend, though physically unharmed, was in a state of complete shock. The nightmare had played out right in front of her eyes, and she could do nothing to stop it. Kevin Richardson was devastated. This wasn't a rogue attack. The lioness hadn't hunted the woman out of malice. She had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Richardson took to social media to express his sorrow. "I am devastated, and my heart goes out to this young woman's family," he wrote. He explained that his team had sent out notifications that they were walking the lions that day, as they always did. The lioness had been chasing an impala. This was not supposed to happen. Dinokeng management was quick to clarify. The lion involved in this fatality was not one of the wild, free-roaming lions of the Dinokeng Game Reserve, but that didn't matter. A woman was dead. The tragedy cast a dark shadow over Richardson's sanctuary. His reputation as the Lion Whisperer, a man who had spent his life building trust with these apex predators, was suddenly under scrutiny. Just weeks before the attack, supermodel Cara Delevingne had posed with one of Richardson's lions for a glamorous photo shoot at the sanctuary. In a heartfelt post, she had called the experience humbling, marveling at the chance to see such magnificent creatures up close. Now, that same world of intimate encounters and breathtaking beauty had revealed its darker, more brutal side. Visitors still come to Richardson's camp. They still take safari drives, still pay to volunteer and experience the thrill of being near some of the world's most powerful predators. But the woman's death serves as a chilling warning. In the wild, even the most experienced handlers know, lions do not reason. They do not hesitate. They do not forgive mistakes. One moment of distraction, one misstep, one wrong place at the wrong time, and in the blink of an eye, you become the hunted. The Liard River, Hot Springs. Provincial Park in British Columbia, Canada, is a tranquil oasis nestled within the boreal forest. Known for its inviting hot pools, it draws locals and travelers alike seeking to relax in its steaming waters. But on August 14, 1997, this serene destination became the site of a horrifying attack that would forever alter its peaceful reputation. Patty McConnell, a Texan on a road trip to Alaska with her 2 children, decided to stop at the hot springs for a much-needed break. The family set off to explore the park, with Patty and her 13-year-old son, Kelly, venturing down a boardwalk and up a set of stairs to find a quieter pool away from the crowds. The serenity of the moment was shattered when a rustling sound emerged from the dense underbrush. Patty turned and came face to face with a large black bear. Before she could react, the bear charged, tackling Patty and launching a brutal attack. Her screams pierced the air as she fought for her life. Kelly, despite his young age and slight build, showed extraordinary bravery. He grabbed a tree branch and struck the bear repeatedly, even kicking it in the face in a desperate attempt to save his mother. The bear, however, turned its rage on him, clawing him across the neck and lifting him by the waist before hurling him to the ground. The commotion caught the attention of bystanders, including a man named Ray Kitchen. Without hesitation, Kitchen rushed to the scene to intervene. He too attempted to fend off the bear, but the animal's strength was overwhelming. In the struggle, the bear struck Kitchen, sending both of them tumbling through a railing and down a hillside. Tragically, the bear mauled Kitchen to death, delivering fatal wounds to his neck. As the attack unfolded, panic spread among other visitors. A second man attempted to intervene and was critically injured in the process. It wasn't until 2 bystanders arrived with hunting rifles that the rampage ended. They shot and killed the bear, but by then, the damage was devastating. Patty McConnell succumbed to her injuries, her courageous effort to protect her son marking her final moments. Kelly, though gravely injured, miraculously survived. His determination to fight off the bear and his incredible resilience became a testament to his bravery. The tragic loss of Ray Kitchen, who selflessly risked his life to help others, left a profound impact on everyone who learned of the incident. The attack shocked the region, prompting discussions about wildlife safety and the unpredictable dangers of nature. The black bear, later determined to be emaciated and unusually aggressive, likely attacked out of desperation, driven by hunger or illness. For many, the event served as a reminder of the delicate balance between humans and wildlife, especially in remote and wild settings. Today, the Liard River Hot Springs remains a popular destination, but the memory of that tragic day lingers. Signs warning visitors of bear activity are a constant presence, urging caution and vigilance.
Picture this. It's March 5th, 2019, in the sleepy village of Zov, tucked away in eastern Czech Republic. The kind of place where the loudest sound is a rooster crowing or a tractor puttering along. Until Michal Prasek showed up. Michal wasn't your average villager. At 34, he'd made quite a name for himself, and not in the good way. You see, Michael had a hobby. A dangerous, are you out of your mind kind of hobby? Keeping lions. Yes, real king of the jungle lions. Not one, but 2. A male and a lioness. Why? Who knows? Maybe he watched The Lion King one too many times. The male lion had been brought in from Slovakia 3 years earlier, and the lioness joined the party in 2018. But Michal wasn't content with just owning lions. Oh no, he had dreams of breeding them, in his backyard, of all places. His homemade enclosures, cobbled together like an overly ambitious DIY project, were his pride and joy. Unfortunately, they lacked proper permits, much like his whole operation. Not Not that this deterred him. Fines from the authorities? Complaints from terrified neighbors? Ignored. For Michal, lions were family, albeit 400-pound, clawed, and fanged family. To really rub salt in the wound, Michal didn't just keep his lions hidden away. Nope, he walked them. Picture a man strolling through a village with a lion on a leash as though it were a golden retriever. Unsurprisingly, this didn't go well. In one infamous incident, a cyclist collided with the lioness during one of these jaunts, ending up in the hospital. The authorities chalked it up as a traffic accident, but for the villagers, it was just one more reason to dread Michal's menagerie. For years, the situation was at a standstill. The authorities wanted the lions gone, but legal loopholes and the lack of proper animal sanctuaries left them stuck. And Michal, he dug in his heels, refusing access to his property. It was a stalemate that left the entire village on edge. Then came that fateful morning. Around 7 a.m., Michal's father made a grim discovery: his son's lifeless body inside the male lion's cage. The door was locked from the inside. What had possessed Michal to enter the enclosure? We'll never know. The police arrived, faced with a chilling task: retrieving Michal's body from a cage containing two very alive and very dangerous lions. Here's the thing about lions: they're not oversized house cats. These are apex predators, built for the kill, and no one was about to risk being their next meal. The police made the heart-wrenching decision to shoot both lions to secure the scene. As if the tragedy couldn't get worse, it was later revealed that the lioness was pregnant. Michal's death marked the end of his controversial hobby, but it also brought relief to many villagers who had lived in fear for years. In the aftermath, the mayor of Zov expressed hope that this tragic event would spur stricter laws on keeping predatory animals. And indeed, the Czech government began reconsidering its wildlife regulations. After all, the country had a reputation as a hub for illegal wildlife smuggling, a status it could no longer afford to ignore. Michal Prosek's story is one of obsession gone too far, a cautionary tale of what happens when humans blur the lines between domesticity and the wild. It's a grim reminder: lions belong in the savannah, not in someone's backyard.
A split-second decision, a predator lying in wait, a tragedy that unfolded in front of horrified onlookers. On a scorching day in July 2016, a family's trip to Battling Wildlife Park in Beijing took a terrifying and deadly turn. The park, known for its drive-through safari experience, allows visitors to observe Siberian tigers up close from the supposed safety of their vehicles. But one simple mistake, one moment of letting their guard down, turned a routine drive into a horrific nightmare caught on camera. It all began with an argument. Inside their car, tensions flared between a woman, later identified as Zhao, and her companions. Frustrated, she did something unthinkable. She opened the car door and stepped out into the tiger enclosure, oblivious to the danger lurking just beyond the tree line. She barely had time to react. From the shadows, a massive Siberian tiger exploded into motion. With lightning speed, the 400-pound predator lunged, clamping its powerful jaws onto Zhao's body and dragging her away before anyone could intervene. Screams filled the air. Panic erupted inside the car. A man and another woman, later identified as Zhao's mother, jumped out, desperate to save her. But in the wild, no act of heroism goes unpunished. As Zhao's mother sprinted toward her daughter, a second tiger struck. This one was even faster, stronger, and more brutal. The massive beast took her down with bone-crushing force, mauling her in front of the helpless onlookers. Unlike Zhao, she would not survive. Surveillance cameras captured everything. The footage, later leaked onto social media, showed the horrifying attack unfold in real time. The sheer force of the tiger's ambush was enough to leave even seasoned wildlife experts stunned. Viewers watched in disbelief as the animals dragged their victims into the underbrush, disappearing from sight. By the time park officials and emergency responders arrived, it was too late. Zhao, though critically injured, had miraculously survived the attack. Her mother, however, had been mauled to death, her selfless attempt to save her daughter costing her everything. In the aftermath, questions swirled. Park rules clearly stated that visitors must remain inside their vehicles at all times, windows up, doors locked. Yet, Zhao claimed she never knew what she had signed before entering the park. She later stated that she believed the form was a standard entry registration, not an agreement that explicitly warned of the danger. To make matters worse, Zhao accused the park of failing to intervene. She alleged that a park official, stationed in a nearby vehicle, failed to come to her rescue, a claim that sparked outrage across China. The tragedy served as a grim reminder of the unforgiving nature of the wild. Siberian tigers are among the most lethal predators on Earth, capable of taking down prey many times their size. Once they lock onto a target, there is no escape. A simple mistake, a fatal miscalculation, and a mother who gave her life in a desperate bid to save her daughter from the jaws of death. The tiger enclosure at Battling Wildlife Park remains open, but those who pass through now do so with a chilling awareness. One wrong move could mean the difference between life and death. In the summer of 2011, a group of British teenagers embarked on a month-long Arctic adventure in the icy wilderness of Svalbard, Norway. Organized by the British Schools Exploring Society, BISIS, the expedition promised an unforgettable journey, an opportunity to study the effects of climate change, bond with new friends, and possibly witness the majestic polar bear in its natural habitat. Tragically, what was meant to be an awe-inspiring encounter with nature turned into a nightmare, claiming the life of 17-year-old Horatio Chappell, a bright young man with aspirations of becoming a doctor. Horatio was one of 80 students on the trip, filled with excitement and curiosity about the stark beauty of the Arctic landscape. The participants had been assured of stringent safety measures, including tripwires set to trigger small explosive mines around campsites, pen flares to deter bears, and a firearm carried by an adult group leader. For many of the teenagers, this journey represented both adventure and discovery in one of the world's most remote and striking environments. However, the expedition's safety preparations were far from foolproof. Shortly after arriving on the icy terrain, the group discovered troubling shortcomings in their equipment. There weren't enough pen flares to distribute among the participants, and some of the tripwires, crucial for detecting and deterring bears, were malfunctioning. Adding to the concern, the firearm assigned to the group leader was an antiquated rifle. In the early hours of August 5th, disaster struck. A starving polar bear, driven by desperation in a rapidly changing ecosystem, entered the campsite undetected. The predator approached the tents where the teenagers slept, its hunger overriding any instinct to avoid humans. The bear tore into Horatio's tent, launching a frenzied attack. One of Horatio's companions was bitten on the head before the bear turned its fury on Horatio. In the chaos, Horatio was dragged from the tent and fatally mauled. The campsite erupted in panic as the bear continued its rampage. 4 other members of the expedition were seriously injured, including 2 adult leaders who scrambled to stop the attack. The leaders wrestled with the unreliable rifle, desperately attempting to neutralize the threat. After a tense and prolonged struggle, they managed to shoot and kill the bear, but the damage was done. Horatio Chappell had lost his life, and the survivors were left to grapple with both their physical injuries and the emotional scars of the ordeal. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the international community and raised pressing questions about the adequacy of safety measures in high-risk environments. The expedition, meant to inspire and educate, had been undermined by critical oversights. Faulty equipment and insufficient training had left the group vulnerable to the very dangers they sought to study. For Horatio's family and friends, the loss was unbearable. A bright and compassionate young man with a future brimming with potential, Horatio had been on the cusp of adulthood, eager to make a difference in the world. His death became a permanent reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the responsibilities owed to those who venture into its domain. Horatio's story remains a somber chapter in the history of exploration, a testament to both the allure and the peril of untamed landscapes. For those who knew him, his memory endures as a symbol of youthful ambition and a love for discovery. For the rest of us, his story serves as a poignant reminder of the fragile line between adventure and tragedy in the face of nature's raw power.
A perfectly tragic tale unfolded one Sunday in October 2009. The heroine of this story is Kellyanne Walls, a gentle-hearted 37-year-old mom of two who called Ross Township, Pennsylvania, her home. Originally from Massachusetts, Kellyanne was a true animal lover. She didn't just have a pet dog or a couple of cats. Oh no, her love for animals knew no bounds. Along with her husband Michael, she turned their acre of land into a full-blown menagerie. Picture it, lions, tigers, cougars, and even a black bear named Teddy. Now, Teddy wasn't just any bear. He'd been part of the Walls family for nearly a decade, and Kellyanne treated him with the same care she gave all her animals. Teddy lived in a secure cage, and Kellyanne had cleaned it 1,000 times without so much as a hiccup. She thought of him as her big, furry companion, not as a wild animal. But October 4th was no ordinary Sunday. As Kellyanne got ready to clean Teddy's cage that afternoon, she grabbed some dog food, her usual trick to distract the bear. It had worked every other time. "This'll keep you busy, Teddy," she might have said, tossing the food to one side of the enclosure. But on this day, Teddy wasn't in the mood for tricks. Maybe it was the changing season, or perhaps his instincts were stirring. It was the start of hibernation season after all. Whatever it was, something inside Teddy snapped. Kellyanne stepped into the cage as she had so many times before. But before she could even begin her work, Teddy attacked. Now imagine the chaos. Kellyanne's kids, frozen in horror, witnessing the unthinkable. Their mother was in danger, and they ran as fast as their legs could carry them to the neighbor's house. That neighbor was Scott Caston, a school teacher. When the kids banged on his door, Scott thought a wild bear had wandered into town. Grabbing his .357 caliber handgun, he rushed over. What Scott found was worse than he could have imagined. There was Teddy, a massive 350-pound bear, looming over Kellyanne, who lay unconscious. And Teddy wasn't done yet. When he noticed Scott, the bear started moving toward him. Now, Scott was no action hero, but he had a family of his own and a split-second decision to make. He fired a single shot, killing Teddy instantly. With the bear down, he ran to Kellyanne's side and called for help. But by the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. Kellyanne was gone. The news sent shockwaves through the community. Kellyanne had been a beloved figure, quiet, caring, and passionate about her animals. Her funeral was packed with friends and neighbors, all mourning the loss of a woman who had touched so many lives. In the days that followed, questions swirled. Could this have been prevented? It turned out that Michael's permits for keeping exotic animals had expired over a year earlier, though inspections had found no issues with the cages. The Pennsylvania Game Commission weighed in, warning that wild animals, no matter how loved, can never truly be tamed. And so, the tale of Kellyanne Walls serves as a bittersweet reminder. Her love for animals was boundless, but even that love couldn't change the untamed nature of the creatures she cared for.
A dream birthday, a peaceful river safari, and then pure terror erupting from the depths. It was December 1st, 2018, Kristen Yaldor's 37th birthday. She and her husband, Ryan, had set out for what was supposed to be a relaxing canoe trip down Zimbabwe's Zambezi River, a place known for its breathtaking beauty and rich wildlife. The guided tour promised calm waters and stunning photo opportunities near Victoria Falls, but nature had other plans. They had barely begun when one of the guides called out, a warning lost in the stillness of the river. Something massive surged from below. In an instant, their canoe lurched violently, flipping over as if it had been struck by an underwater explosion. Before Kristen could react, she was in the water. Gasping, disoriented, she surfaced just in time to see Ryan desperately swimming toward the shore. She was almost there too, just 5 strokes away from safety. But then it happened. A force like a wrecking ball clamped onto her right leg and yanked her under. The pain hadn't hit yet. Shock, adrenaline, survival instincts. The water churned as the unseen monster rag-dolled her side to side, its massive jaws crushing down like a hydraulic press. She had dived with sharks before. She knew not to panic. Hold your breath. Stay calm. She reached for the creature's jaw, her fingers brushing against its rough, prehistoric skin. For a moment, it loosened its grip. Was she free? Had she scared it off? Then, agony. Kristen clawed her way to the riverbank, her broken leg sending white-hot pain through her body. The severity of her injuries was unknown, but the crimson stain spreading into the water told her everything she needed to know. A guide wrapped a tourniquet around her leg. Ryan, hands shaking, tried to call for help. Across the river, tourists, safe in their vehicles, had stopped watching animals. Now, they were watching her. Kristen borrowed Ryan's phone. She dialed home. It was 2 a.m. in Florida, but her mother answered. "Do you want me to sing you happy birthday?" "No, Mom," Kristen whispered. "I got attacked by a hippo." For those who have never seen a hippo up close, its bite is the stuff of nightmares. Its jaws open to a horrifying 150-degree angle, revealing 36 dagger-like teeth, including massive canines designed to crush bone and tear through flesh. A hippo's bite force is strong enough to snap a canoe in half, and it had nearly done just that. Kristen survived. But the scars, physical and psychological, would last forever. The Zambezi had given her a birthday she would never forget, and a reason to never trust calm waters again. On a chilling summer night in 1967, the tranquil beauty of Montana's Glacier National Park became the backdrop for a nightmare. Two young women, Julie Helgeson and Michelle Coons, both 19 and seasonal lodge employees, met a tragic end in separate grizzly bear attacks. What should have been peaceful overnight backpacking trips with friends turned into a harrowing ordeal that would forever change the park's history. On August 12th, Helgeson and Coons set out on separate hikes, eager to explore the park's awe-inspiring landscapes. Glacier was renowned for its rugged beauty, but unbeknownst to the women, danger was lurking nearby. For weeks, grizzlies had been prowling campsites and lodges, drawn by improperly stored food left by careless visitors. In some cases, tourists had even fed the bears to snap photographs, creating a perilous situation where the lines between human and wild became dangerously blurred. Back then, there were no bear-proof garbage bins or widespread warnings, leaving visitors vulnerable to the unpredictable wilderness. Under the starlit sky, neither group had any inkling of the terror that was about to unfold. In the early hours of the morning, Helgeson and her friend were startled awake by the sound of a grizzly sniffing at their sleeping bags. Frozen in fear, they attempted to play dead, a common survival tactic. However, the bear was undeterred. It attacked both of them before dragging Helgeson into the forest as her screams pierced the stillness. A frantic search party located her hours later, grievously injured. Despite their best efforts to save her, she succumbed to her injuries before reaching the hospital. Coons and her group had an equally horrifying encounter. As they prepared dinner at their campsite, a grizzly suddenly appeared, raiding their supplies. Believing the bear had satisfied its hunger, the group decided to move to a nearby beach to sleep, hoping to avoid further trouble. But their reprieve was short-lived. At 4:30 a.m., the grizzly returned with renewed aggression. While Coon's friends scrambled up nearby trees, she was unable to escape. The bear mauled her savagely, severing her arm in the attack. Although her friends eventually reached help, it was too late. Coons succumbed to her injuries before rescuers could arrive. The fact that these horrifying incidents occurred on the same night in different parts of the park sent shockwaves through the nation. The deaths of Helgeson and Coons exposed glaring gaps in the park's safety protocols. At the time, little was done to educate visitors on the dangers of attracting wildlife, and the lack of proper food storage measures made encounters with bears far more likely. The tragedy served as a wake-up call, prompting Glacier National Park and other wilderness areas to implement critical safety measures. Bear-proof garbage cans, strict food storage rules, and educational campaigns about wildlife safety became standard practices, aiming to prevent such disasters in the future. While the immediate aftermath of the attacks was filled with grief and shock, the legacy of that fateful night reminds us of nature's unpredictability. The events showed the delicate balance required to coexist with the wild. For all its breathtaking beauty, Glacier National Park remains a domain where humans are visitors and wildlife reigns supreme. The deaths of Helgeson and Coons revealed the need for both respect and caution when venturing into the untamed wilderness. Decades later, the memory of that tragic night in Glacier National Park remains etched in the collective consciousness. It is a haunting tale of nature's raw power and the fragility of human life when faced with its ferocity.
The next one is a tale from the rolling plains of Free State, South Africa. Back in November 2011, picture Marius Els, a strapping 40-year-old farmer and former army major, living his dream of raising one of the most unusual pets you could imagine. Forget dogs and cats. Marius went big, real big. His baby was none other than a 1.2-ton hippopotamus named Humphrey. Now, Humphrey wasn't just any hippo. He was an internet darling, famous for videos of him frolicking in the water, letting Marius ride on his back like some sort of modern-day Tarzan. To Marius, Humphrey was more than a pet. He was family. "He's like a son to me," Marius would say, beaming with pride. But let's rewind a bit. Humphrey's story began when he was rescued as a calf from a flood and taken in by another family. Cute, right? But as Humphrey grew, and oh, did he grow, he became too much to handle. Enter Marius, who swooped in to give Humphrey a 400-acre paradise, complete with a custom-built lake where the hippo could splash to his heart's content. It was the stuff of Disney movies, until it wasn't. Marius doted on Humphrey, feeding him apples, brushing his massive teeth, and even riding on his back. While the farmer was convinced he had tamed Africa's most dangerous animal, his neighbors weren't so sure. They watched in alarm as Humphrey occasionally wandered off to chase golfers on the nearby course, or worse, reportedly took out some livestock. "That hippo's a ticking time bomb," they'd mutter, but Marius would just laugh it off, declaring, "People don't get it. You can have a bond with a hippo, just like with a dog or cat." And then there was that time Humphrey nearly went full National Geographic. A man and his grandson, canoeing on Marius's farm, found themselves face to face with Humphrey, who wasn't in the mood for visitors. The duo had to scramble up a tree and stay put for 2 hours until Marius arrived to defuse the situation. With an apple, no less. Classic Marius, always the hero. But the warnings kept piling up. Marius's wife Louise had her doubts. "It's not safe," she'd argue, but Marius's confidence was unshakable. He truly believed their bond made him untouchable. Then came that fateful day in November. Marius was found dead, his body battered and submerged in the river. Ironically, the very river where he'd once saved Humphrey. The details were gruesome. Multiple bite wounds, the kind only a hippo could deliver. It was a shocking and tragic end to a man who had dared to believe he could tame the untamable. The world was stunned, but those who knew Marius weren't entirely surprised. They'd seen the red flags and tried to warn him, but Marius, ever the optimist, brushed them aside. "Humphrey would never hurt me," he'd said. Famous last words. Humphrey, the hippo who had been loved like a son, had ultimately succumbed to his wild instincts. The tale of Marius and Humphrey is a stark reminder. Wild animals are just that, wild, and no matter how close the bond, nature always has the final say. So, what's the moral of this story? Maybe stick to Labradors and tabby cats. They don't weigh a ton, and they're a lot less likely to chase golfers.
The African wilderness is both breathtaking and merciless, a place where nature reigns supreme and danger lurks just beneath the surface, sometimes quite literally. For Dr. Richard K. Root, a man who had dedicated his life to saving others, the wild had something far more sinister in store. A world-renowned infectious disease specialist, mentor, and humanitarian, Dr. Root had traveled across the globe, tackling the deadliest bacterial infections and mentoring the next generation of medical professionals. But on a seemingly peaceful day in 2006, his extraordinary journey came to a horrifying and violent end. Dragged into the depths of the Limpopo River by a giant prehistoric predator. At 68 years old, Dr. Root was far from retired. His passion for medicine and education remained as strong as ever. When the University of Pennsylvania's Infectious Disease Department extended an invitation for him to help train doctors in Botswana, he didn't hesitate. The project was crucial. Botswana was in the grips of a devastating HIV/AIDS epidemic, and Dr. Root was there to help equip local medical teams with the knowledge and skills to combat it. His assignment would last 2 months, and in that short time, he was determined to make a difference. But amidst the hard work, there was also time to take in the stunning beauty of the region, a land teeming with wildlife, ancient landscapes, and vast rivers where predators still ruled. And so, on March 19, 2006, Dr. Root and his wife, Rita, embarked on what was meant to be a simple, guided canoe safari through the Thule Nature Reserve, a decision that would become his last. The canoes drifted peacefully down the Limpopo River, the soft murmur of water mixing with the distant calls of birds and the rustling of leaves in the towering riverbanks. The sun was bright overhead, glistening off the surface, painting the illusion of a serene and tranquil moment. But beneath the murky depths, something was watching, waiting. Dr. Root sat in the lead canoe, accompanied by a seasoned guide, a man who had likely seen his fair share of Africa's dangers. His wife, Rita, followed in another canoe, capturing moments of their adventure on camera. The photos she took just minutes before the attack showed Dr. Root at ease, completely unaware that he was about to become prey. Then the river erupted. A monstrous crocodile, measuring between 13 and 15 feet, launched itself from the depths. In a single, calculated move, the reptile lunged onto the canoe, sinking its dagger-like teeth into Dr. Root's body. The canoe shook violently, but did not overturn. The beast didn't need to capsize it. It had already won. Within seconds, Dr. Root was ripped from his seat and dragged into the water. A scream echoed across the river. His wife, just yards behind, could only watch in horror as her husband disappeared beneath the surface. And then, silence. Panic set in. The guide and other members of the group searched frantically, scanning the water for any sign of movement, but the river had already swallowed him whole. In that instant, Dr. Root, a man who had spent decades fighting deadly diseases, saving lives, and training future doctors, had become nothing more than another victim of Africa's unforgiving wilderness. Word spread quickly. Authorities and local trackers launched a full-scale search, scouring the banks of the Limpopo River for any sign of his body. Days passed. Nothing. For 4 long days, hope dwindled. His wife clung to the desperate possibility that somehow he had survived. Then, on the 4th day, the river gave up its secret. Dr. Root's lifeless body was found near the site of the initial attack, his remains bearing the unmistakable signs of a crocodile's ferocious grip. The man, who had spent a lifetime fighting death, had lost his final battle to a silent, ancient killer. Dr. Richard K. Root was no ordinary man. He was a pioneer in infectious disease research, a respected educator, and a mentor to countless physicians across the world. His work in sepsis management and bacterial infections helped shape the modern medical understanding of some of the deadliest illnesses known to humankind. But even the greatest minds are no match for nature's raw and unpredictable brutality. His death sent shockwaves through the medical community. Tributes poured in from colleagues, students, and institutions worldwide. He had spent a lifetime saving lives, yet in the end, no one could save him. His tragic death serves as a haunting reminder of the unrelenting power of the natural world. In the wilderness, even the most accomplished, intelligent, and respected individuals are still just another part of the food chain. The Nile crocodile is a master of ambush, a prehistoric killer that has remained unchanged for millions of years. With crushing jaws, capable of exerting over 5,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, and the terrifying death roll, a brutal part, it is one of the most feared predators on the planet. Each year, hundreds of people fall victim to these ambush hunters, especially in the rivers of Botswana, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. But it is rare for someone as high-profile as Dr. Root to be among them. Perhaps that's what makes his death so haunting. It wasn't a disease, an accident, or old age that claimed him. It was something far more primal, a silent predator in the water, a moment of peace shattered in an instant, a man of science, swallowed by the wild. And in the end, no cure, no knowledge, no expertise could save him. In the annals of wilderness exploration, few tragedies have left as haunting a mark as the 2023 grizzly bear attack in Banff National Park. While backcountry treks are meant to inspire awe and connection with nature, this particular journey ended in devastating loss, cementing itself as one of the most harrowing events in the park's modern history. Doug Inglis and Jenny Gussa, both 62, were seasoned adventurers and devoted naturalists. The couple, accompanied by their beloved border collie, Tris, set out for a week-long trek in the rugged Red Deer River Valley, an isolated corner of Banff. Known for their meticulous preparation and respect for wildlife, Doug and Jenny embodied the spirit of the park's wilderness, experienced, cautious, and deeply in tune with the land. On the evening of September 29, 2023, they arrived at their campsite after a long day of hiking. As was their routine, they secured their food cache safely away from their tent, prepared a simple meal, and likely retreated into their tent to read and relax. The couple sent a satellite message to family, noting a delay but reassuring them that all was well. But by the early hours of the next morning, a horrifying reality had unfolded. A grizzly bear, old and frail but still dangerously powerful, attacked their campsite. In those final, desperate moments, Doug and Jenny managed to send a 3-word message from their satellite device: "Bear attack bad." It was a cry for help that carried the weight of unimaginable terror and impending tragedy. The alert reached Parks Canada, whose specialized wildlife response team sprang into action. However, poor weather conditions in the remote valley grounded helicopters, forcing rescuers to navigate the dark, rugged terrain on foot. They arrived at the site after midnight, only to find the worst. Doug, Jenny, and Tris had all been killed. As the team secured the area, they encountered the grizzly responsible for the attack. The bear charged, and in the interest of safety, it was shot and killed. A subsequent necropsy revealed the bear to be an aged female, around 25 years old, an outlier in the wilderness. Her teeth were worn down, and her fat stores were dangerously low, signs of a long struggle to survive. Despite Doug and Jenny's adherence to safety protocols, including properly storing their food, the bear's desperate condition had turned their campsite into a fatal encounter. The tragedy was devastating for the close-knit community of outdoor enthusiasts and the broader public. Doug and Jenny were not reckless newcomers to the wilderness. They were exemplars of responsible outdoor recreation. Their deaths underscored the unpredictable and often unforgiving nature of wildlife interactions, even for the most prepared and experienced individuals. For those who knew them, Doug and Jenny were more than their final moments. They were lifelong adventurers, partners in both work and passion, who found joy in the vast landscapes of Canada's national parks. Tris, their loyal companion, was a testament to their love for animals and the bond they shared with nature. The legacy of Doug and Jenny's story is twofold. On one hand, it is a reminder of the risks inherent in exploring wild spaces. On the other, it is a call to cherish those who embrace the outdoors with reverence and care. For Doug and Jenny, nature was not merely a backdrop, but a shared passion that defined their lives.
It was July 17th, 2006, in the calm, tree-lined neighborhood of Salem Township, Pennsylvania. The sun was out, the birds were chirping, and Sandra Piovesan, a 50-year-old woman with a deep love for her unusual pets, was preparing to visit her pack of 9 wolf-dog hybrids. These weren't your run-of-the-mill fluffy pups, mind you. These were hulking, untamed beasts, half wolf and half dog, living in a large fenced enclosure in Sandra's backyard. Sandra adored her hybrids. For nearly a decade, they'd been the center of her world. They had toys, an igloo, balls, a plastic playhouse, and plenty of space to roam. She treated them like cherished family, oblivious to the storm brewing within her beloved pack. Over the last year, the animals had been acting out, snarling, restless, and even attacking one of their own, a longtime member of the pack. Yet Sandra, ever the optimist, chalked it up to growing pains. What she didn't realize was that her relationship with these animals was built on a razor's edge. You see, wolf-dog hybrids are unpredictable. They're not quite pets, not quite wild. They come with all the charm of a domestic dog, but carry the unrelenting instincts of a wolf. Add to that a pack dynamic, where dominance is a constant contest and, well, let's just say things can go south quickly. Sandra, though, wasn't fazed. She didn't have a state license for these hybrids, but she got by with regular dog licenses. Her passion for them, she claimed, was rooted in her Native American heritage, a connection she felt strongly about even if her neighbors didn't share her enthusiasm. To them, Sandra's pack was less spiritual bond and more neighborhood nightmare. The smell of roadkill she sometimes fed them, unbearable. The rumors that they were unvaccinated and unneutered, even worse. But Sandra, she loved her pack with all her heart. She'd enter their pen daily to feed them, chat with them, and even invite visitors to marvel at the animals she considered her kindred spirits. Until that fateful morning, Sandra was supposed to meet her daughter, Crystal, for breakfast. When she didn't show up, Crystal drove to her mom's house, expecting perhaps a forgotten alarm or a missed call. What she found instead was a scene straight out of a horror movie. Sandra's body lay in the enclosure, lifeless, covered in deep gashes and bites. Blood stained the ground. The pack, usually playful or indifferent, was on edge, pacing and snarling along the fence. When authorities arrived, the situation was tense. The hybrids seemed poised for attack, their wild instincts dialed up to 11. To retrieve Sandra's body, police had no choice but to tranquilize and euthanize all 9 animals. It was a tragic end, not just for Sandra, but for the creatures she had dedicated her life to. The autopsy confirmed the heartbreaking truth. Sandra had been mauled to death by the very animals she loved. Experts speculated that the attack stemmed from a power struggle within the pack. Perhaps one or more of the hybrids decided it was time to challenge Sandra for dominance. Her death wasn't exactly a shock to those who knew her. Many had warned Sandra about the dangers of keeping such animals. Her friend Brian Gallagher admitted as much, noting that while Sandra had a good heart, her passion had blinded her to the risks. This tragedy left a grim reminder in its wake. Wild instincts don't fade with love alone. It also highlighted the pressing need for stricter regulations on owning exotic animals like wolf-dog hybrids. Sandra's story is one of devotion, danger, and the fine line between the human desire to connect with nature and nature's untamed reality. Sometimes the wild is best left wild.
A seasoned safari ranger, a towering beast in a violent rage, and a tragic ending no one saw coming. In December 2018, Madikwe Game Reserve in South Africa became the scene of a horrifying tragedy when a bull elephant, overcome with uncontrollable aggression, broke through a fence and stormed into a tourist area at Leopard Rock Lodge. Mark Lautenbach, a highly respected guide, wildlife photographer, and one of the most skilled rangers in the country, stepped forward to defuse the situation. But in the unforgiving world of the wild, even the most experienced hands can be powerless against nature's fury. The elephant, a 6-ton bull in musth, a state of heightened aggression caused by surging testosterone levels, was in no mood to be confronted. Witnesses say the massive creature fixated on Mark and, within seconds, charged with deadly intent. The ground trembled under its weight as it bore down on him. Before anyone could react, Mark was struck and trampled repeatedly, suffering catastrophic injuries. Musth makes bull elephants some of the most dangerous animals on Earth, flooding them with up to 6 times their normal testosterone levels, turning them into unstoppable forces of rage. Even female elephants in heat aren't safe during this period, let alone a human trying to intervene. One local expert, speaking under anonymity, described the scene with chilling clarity. Mark was one of the best, a man who understood the wild like few others, but this was something no one could stop. That elephant had made up its mind. Despite Mark's experience and knowledge, nothing could be done once the attack began. The beast left destruction in its wake before rangers made the grim decision to put it down, fearing it would strike again. For the safari community, Mark's loss was more than just a tragedy. It was a stark reminder that no matter how much we learn about nature, it remains an unpredictable, merciless force. On a bitterly cold December in 1915, a remote village in Hokkaido, Japan, became the site of the worst animal attack in the nation's history. The Sankabetsu brown bear incident left 7 people dead and 3 injured over a span of 5 harrowing days. The terror began with a lone Usuri brown bear, a massive and formidable predator native to Hokkaido, waking early from hibernation. Its hunger and aggression would devastate the quiet settlement, leaving a dark legacy that still haunts the region. The Ussuri brown bear is one of the largest bear subspecies, rivaling even the Kodiak bear in size. These animals have long inspired fear in Japan, where tales of their ferocity are ingrained in local lore. During the early 20th century, such fears were not unfounded. Over 141 people were killed in bear attacks on Hokkaido between 1900 and 1950. Yet, nothing could prepare the villagers of Sankabetsu for the nightmare that began in mid-November 1915, when a large male bear first appeared near the Akita family's farm. It raided their corn supplies but left without causing harm. Hoping to drive the bear away for good, the family enlisted 2 experienced mataji, traditional winter hunters, to track and kill it. Though they wounded the bear during an encounter 10 days later, a snowstorm forced the hunters to abandon their pursuit, mistakenly believing the injury would deter the animal from returning. They could not have been more wrong. On December 9th, the bear stormed the Ota family home in broad daylight. Inside, Abe Mayu was babysitting an infant while her husband worked in the fields. The bear attacked without warning, killing the baby instantly with a bite to the head. Mayu fought back, throwing firewood at the massive predator, but it overpowered her, dragging her into the forest. When her husband returned, he found the home drenched in blood, his wife gone. The following morning, a search party discovered Mayu's partially devoured body buried in snow beneath a tree. The discovery confirmed the bear's growing boldness and bloodlust. That evening, armed villagers gathered at the Ota home, prepared for the bear's return. The predator did reappear, triggering chaos. Amid the panic, only a single shot was fired, and the bear escaped unscathed. Nearby, the Miyuki family and other villagers sought refuge in a reinforced home, believing they were safer in numbers. Guards were posted, but when news of the bear's presence at the Ota home reached them, most of the guards left to investigate, leaving only one man to protect the women and children. What happened next was a scene of unimaginable horror. As the Miyuki women prepared a late meal, the bear crashed through a window and plunged the house into chaos. In the ensuing melee, flames were extinguished, plunging the room into darkness. The bear attacked indiscriminately. Yayo, the family matriarch, attempted to flee with her children but stumbled when her terrified young son clung to her legs. Though the bear initially targeted them, it turned its focus to the lone guard, allowing Yayo to escape. Tragically, others were not as fortunate. 2 young boys were killed, and a pregnant woman was savagely mauled despite her desperate pleas for mercy. Her remains, partially consumed, were a grim testament to the bear's violence. A group of armed men soon arrived, but were unable to save those inside. They considered burning the house to kill the bear, but hesitated, fearing for any survivors. Attempts to ambush the bear failed, as confusion among the hunters allowed it to escape yet again. Among the villagers, a plea for help was made to Yamamoto Heikichi, a skilled bear hunter with a fearsome reputation. On December 13th, Yamamoto and a group of 60 hunters tracked the bear to a snowy ridge. Bloodstains revealed that the bear had been wounded again during a prior encounter. Yamamoto's experience paid off. He located the bear resting under a Japanese oak tree and closed in silently. From just 20 yards away, he fired 2 precise shots, one to the heart and one to the head, finally ending the animal's rampage. The bear, later measured at nearly 9 feet tall and weighing 750 pounds, was a formidable predator, even by Ussuri brown bear standards. The aftermath of the incident left scars that would linger for generations. Villagers abandoned Sankabetsu, unable to bear the memories of the tragedy. Some survivors, like Okawa Haruyoshi, the mayor's son, vowed vengeance. Haruyoshi became a renowned bear hunter, claiming over 100 kills in his lifetime.
It was early September 2011, a time when the Idul Fitri holidays brought joy and celebration to Indonesia. On Batam Island, a tropical paradise brimming with lush landscapes and rich traditions, lived Andre Lumboga, a 50-year-old man with a penchant for adventure and an unusually large pack of 9 dogs. Yes, 9. Quite the canine collection, right? Now, Andre was all set to celebrate the holidays in style, planning a 2-week trip to Manado in North Sulawesi. Imagine the excitement, suitcases packed, itinerary ready, and dreams of feasting and family time. But there was one glaring problem. Andre, in all his excitement, forgot or neglected to arrange a sitter for his dogs. No food, no water, no nothing. Yikes. Still, off he went, leaving his furry companions to fend for themselves. Now, here's where things get grim. You know how they say hunger makes even friends fight? Well, these dogs took that to a whole new level. Desperation set in, and before long, the weakest among them became a literal meal for the others. Survival of the hungriest, you could say. Fast forward 14 days. It's August 30th, and Andre's back from his adventure. Probably humming a holiday tune, he steps into his home, blissfully unaware of the horror awaiting him. The dogs, now feral from starvation and madness, didn't see their owner, they saw dinner. What happened next? Let's just say, it wasn't a happy reunion. Days passed without any sign of Andre, which raised some eyebrows in the neighborhood. His luggage, oddly pristine, sat untouched outside his house like a sad little time capsule. Eventually, a concerned neighborhood guard decided to check things out. And oh boy, did he wish he hadn't. The stench hit him first. A foul, unmistakable warning that something was very, very wrong. Police were called, and what they found could make a horror writer blush. Andre's remains were scattered throughout the house, with his skull chilling in the kitchen like some grim centerpiece. Meanwhile, the dogs, still in survival mode, had turned territorial, snarling and snapping at anyone who dared enter. Faced with no other choice, the officers subdued the pack. Tragically, 3 of the 7 surviving dogs had to be put down, while the rest were captured and taken away. Their future remained uncertain, though it was clear their lives had been irrevocably scarred. The neighborhood was rocked by the news. Some neighbors admitted they'd noticed the smell but had brushed it off as a dead rat. Now, they were grappling with shock and sadness. How could something so unthinkable happen right in their backyard? The local police chief, Ariana, explained the heartbreaking reality. The dog's attack was a desperate act of survival after 2 weeks without food or water. So what's the takeaway here? If you've got pets, treat them with love and care, because neglect doesn't just hurt them, it can spiral into a nightmare no one wants to imagine. And if you're ever planning a trip, let's just say pet sitting should be top of the to-do list.